Hi class, my name is Sasha Grant, and today I will be talking about how the Big Five Inventory Conscientiousness Scale predicts workplace success. In this presentation, we'll explore what conscientiousness is, how it is measured using the Big Five Inventory Scale, and why it's an important factor in workplace success. We'll also further look at real-life examples, the reliability and the validity of the scale, and some ethical concerns when using personality tests in hiring. Now let's understand what conscientiousness actually means. Conscientiousness is the tendency to be organized, responsible, and goal-driven. Here below I've added two examples of high conscientiousness and low conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is one of the big five personality traits, and it refers to how responsible or organized somebody could be. People who are highly conscious tend to be dependable, plan ahead, and work hard. On the other hand, people low in conscientiousness might be more disorganized or procrastinate or struggle to meet company deadlines. This trait plays a big role in workplace success because conscientious employees are usually more productive and reliable. And that's why most people look for that, because in any company they want success in their work environment. So they tend to look for those type of people. To further elaborate on a conscientiousness person, let's also talk about why it's so important in the workplace. I've listed a couple things below as we discussed in earlier slides: the better job performance, higher productivity, fewer absence, and better team, strong leadership, and dependability. Now, off rip, you can already tell that's exactly what is needed in a successful workplace. Because these people are more productive, they pay attention, they're less likely to call out sick or miss work, and this is because they take their responsibilities seriously. Studies have shown that highly conscientious people make strong leaders because they are dependable and can manage tasks efficiently. And of course, that's what is also needed in a workplace for success. And any workplace, they want success in their business to bring in more revenue or whatever their goals are for that company. So that's why these people are necessary. Let's talk about how conscientiousness plays out in real life. Let's start with Google's hiring process. Google values employees who are detail-oriented, organized, and of course reliable, especially in a leadership role. They're going to look for people who can manage projects efficiently, meet deadlines, and take initiative. They're always looking for leaders in Google's corporation. So someone in high conscientiousness is likely to be structured and proactive, ensuring that their goals are met in their team. Now let's look at healthcare workers, which is a pretty big one and a very good example. A highly conscientious nurse will carefully track medications, follow the safety protocols, and make sure details are handled correctly. They're of course going to double check work so that way they can reduce chances of mistakes. On the other hand, a nurse who's low in conscientiousness may struggle with organization, forget important things to do, or even overlook minor details. So this can lead to serious errors in patient care, like missing a medication dose or not following protocol could put the patient at risk. And if you're putting a patient at risk, you're going to end up putting the whole company at risk. So this is why companies want a lot of employees that are high in conscientiousness. So how do we actually measure conscientiousness? One of the common tools is the Big Five Inventory Scale. It's a self-report questionnaire, meaning people are going to answer it about themselves. So the test will include simple statements like I follow a schedule or I'm always prepared, and the person taking it rates on how much they agree. All of us have probably done a scale like this before, especially when applying for jobs. So the way it's scored is pretty straightforward. The total score falls between the range of three ranges. Low, which is 1 through 15, means someone is more disorganized, or moderate, which is 16 to 25, suggests that they have an average level of responsibility. And then we have our high, which means they are very reliable and goal-driven. But the key thing to remember is that this test isn't just about labeling people, it's about getting an idea of their natural tendencies and how those might show up in different areas of life, like work or school. Let's discuss the reliability and validity of the Big Five Inventory Conscientiousness Scale. A good test should be both reliable and valid. Reliability means the test gives consistent results over time. So if someone takes the Big Five inventory scale today and then again in a few weeks, their score should be about the same. Studies show this scale has high reliability with a Cronbach's alpha of around 0.80, which means it's pretty consistent. So now for validity is about whether the test actually measures what it claims to measure. Research proves that this scale is a strong predictor of workplace success. People with high conscientiousness, they tend to be more reliable, organized, goal-driven, as you guys know from the slides above, which leads to better job performance. It also has a construct validity, meaning it aligns well with other personality measures. So overall, this test is both trustworthy and effective for assessing conscientiousness in a work setting. So now let's get into some ethical concerns. Personality tests can be very useful, but they can also raise some concerns. One big issue is hiring discrimination. Some employees might reject candidates just because of a low conscientiousness score, even if the person has the right skill set and experience for the job. Then there's the issue of privacy. Not everyone feels comfortable sharing personal details about their personality, especially when they don't know how the results will be used. Another problem is self-report bias. Since people answer the questions themselves, they may not always be honest. Someone might try to make themselves seem more responsible or detail-oriented than they really are, especially if the test is being used for hiring or promotion. I'm sure we've all been guilty of that. So while these tests can provide helpful insights, they should never actually be the only factor in making a decision about a person's potential or abilities for a job or anything. Let's dive into some cultural considerations in personality testing. In this slide, we're going to focus on individualist versus collectivist cultures. When we think about conscientiousness, it's very important to remember that culture can really influence how it's understood. In Western cultures, being organized and self-disciplined and focusing on personal success is highly valued. So someone who scores high on conscientiousness in these cultures might be seen as dependable and hardworking. But in many Eastern cultures, the focus is more on the group, like working together and being flexible. Here, a person might not be judged solely on how organized they are, but rather on how they will work with others. This difference is why it's super important to interpret personality test results carefully, taking into account when someone comes from and the cultural values that shape their behavior. Ethical use of personality test. Here I'm going to use the example of the Facebook hiring practices. So Facebook, they used personality tests as part of their hiring process, but then they eventually stopped because they found that the test might be biased. This raised an important point because while personality tests can be helpful in understanding somebody, they shouldn't be the only thing employers look at. Imagine someone who's highly skilled and experienced but gets, filtered out just because their personality results did not match a certain profile. That wouldn't be fair, of course. So a better approach is to use the test alongside other factors like work experience, some skill sets, and also an interview. This way, companies can get a full picture of a person instead of making a decision based on just one test. Because, of course, if they just went on the one test, then, hey, they might not even get hired for a job that they would actually be really good at. Pros of using the Big Five Inventory Conscientiousness Scale. So, of course, it's a great tool for both employers and employees. And one of the biggest pros, as we talked about before in previous slides, is that it predicts the job success and its reliability. And research, as we've shown, of course, it's going to seek out more of dependable and organized employees, which are all traits that are very important for the workplace. But also another benefit is that it's really easy to administer and it doesn't take long to complete, and the results are very straightforward, making it a quick and effective way for companies to assess potential hires or even current employees. And also, it helps for employees too. It's helpful for employees too, because taking this test can be given a better understanding of their own strength and areas of improvement. If someone scores high, they can feel more confident in their work ethic. Now, as if someone scores low, they can also use the information to develop better work habits. Many companies today use personality assessments like this one during hiring and performance evaluations. It helps them find employees who are not only skilled but also responsible and hardworking, making the workplace more efficient and very productive. Okay, so now that we talked about some of the pros, let's get into some of the cons of the Big Five inventory scale. First, it doesn't capture all personality traits. It only focuses on conscientiousness. But people are much more complex than just one trait. Someone could actually score high on conscientiousness but still struggle in other important areas like adaptability or even teamwork. Another issue is its self-report bias. So, since this test relies on people answering questions about themselves, they might try to make themselves look better instead of being completely honest. For example, if the job applicant knows employers value conscientiousness, they might give the quote unquote right answers rather than actually be truthful. And lastly, there's a risk over reliance in hiring. Some companies might put too much weight on test results and overlook other important factors like actual experience, how they can probably solve problem solving skills, or even if they're cultural fit. The Big Five inventory can be useful, but it should never be the only tool for making big decisions, especially in hiring or a promotion. All right, so let's talk about some key takeaways and sum everything up. Conscientiousness plays, of course, a huge role in the job performance. So people who score high, as we discussed in many slides, they tend to be more reliable, organized, and goal-driven. And of course, that's going to make them the most valuable employee in any workplace. And we also talked about the Big Five Inventory Conscientious Scale, which is a great tool for measuring this trait. And it's been shown to be reliable, valid, meaning it consistently measures what it's supposed to. But like any test, it does have its limitations. And it shouldn't be the only thing used when making a decision like hiring someone or evaluating their performance. That's why it's important to combine personality assessments with other tools, like interviews, skill sets, and performance reviews. This approach gives a much clearer picture of a person's potential. Personality is a big piece of the puzzle, but things like experience, motivation, and work ethic matter just as much. So the key takeaway here is use these assessments wisely, but don't let them make the final decision for you. So I wanted to provide one more example of how conscientiousness is in the workplace, and I wanted to use an example of two sales managers, one who scores high in conscientiousness and one who scores low. And as you can see, the one that scored high is super organized. They showed up on time every day, keep their team motivated, and always hit their sales target. They would follow up with the clients, meet deadlines, and plan ahead. Because of their reliability and hard work, the team trusts them and they perform well. This kind of employee is exactly what most companies want, someone who gets the job done without needing constant supervision. Now, on the other hand, the person that scored low struggles to stay on top of things and forgets important meetings, doesn't track their team's progress, and lacks some organization. This is why employers love hiring conscientious people. They're dependable, hardworking, and help the company grow. It's not just about being good at a job, it's about being responsible and consistent, which benefits both the employee and the business in the long run. All right, that wraps up my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope I was able to give a clear understanding of the Big Five Inventory Conscientiousness Scale and how it plays a role in predicting workplace success. As we discussed, conscientiousness is a key trait in job performance. It helps employers find reliable, goal-driven employees, and it can even predict success in different careers. But while personality tests can be useful tools, they should never be only factors in hiring or promotions. So, what's the best way to use these tests? First, combine them with other assessments. Look at experience, skills, and of course, an interview is necessary to get a full picture of a candidate. Second, respect privacy. Test results should be handled carefully and only shared with permission. And third, be aware of cultural differences. One person's idea of being organized or hardworking might not match someone else's, so interpretation, of course, matters. Now, I want to leave you with a few questions to think about. Would you feel comfortable if a job opportunity depended on your personality test? How do you think cultural backgrounds influence the way we answer personality questions? And also, and most importantly, how can companies use these tests fairly and ethically while still making smart hiring decisions? Again, thank you for your time. I hope this presentation gave you some valuable insight into how conscientiousness connects to workplace success, and with the examples provided, it gave you a clear view of how it's used in the workplace. If you have any questions, I'd be so happy to discuss. Thank you. Here are the references for the research I have used in this presentation. Thanks again for listening.